Hello everyone, that manga kid here to do my wrap up of week 2 and 3 of Lohali's 30 for 30. It's the April manga reading challenge where you basically read 30 volumes of manga in 30 days. The point, as far as I know, is to read like one volume a day. I'm keeping up with the amount that I'm supposed to be reading, but I'm definitely not able to read one volume per day. It just hasn't worked out that way. I tend to read more in like chunks rather than being able to spread out my reading throughout the week. I just get busy and then missed a few days and whatever. So I didn't do a wrap up for week 2 because I only read, I think, 3 volumes outside of Bizarre Individuals 24-hour readathon, which took place on Saturday, April 13th. So I made a separate wrap-up video for that readathon and figured I'd just put week 2 and 3 of Lohali's challenge into one, since I only had 3 volumes to show for week 2. So I'll start off with that. I read, first of all, Dead Dead Demons, Destruction by Inio Asano. This is volume 5. This volume is continuing on with tensions are getting higher in this volume between humans and the aliens. The invaders, I guess is what they call them. So we're seeing more and more of the kind of desolate areas that are war-torn, and then more of action groups of people against the violence, and then also more people who are absolutely all for the violence against the invaders and trying to get rid of them. So yeah, this was a really, really good volume. I pre-order these volumes and read them as soon as I get them, pretty much. So really, really enjoyed this. Definitely recommend reading this if you're not already doing so. But yeah, I read this, and I don't remember what day that was. This is just week 2 still of the challenge. I also read volume 5 of Dorohedoro. This is by Q Hayashida. Another really, really great kind of gritty story. Again, kind of a war between 2 different beings. We've got the sorcerers versus the people who live in what they call the hole. Yeah, it's dark. It's like I said, gritty. I have made a first impressions video of this series, so go check that out if you haven't already and you're interested. But yeah, really, really still enjoying Dorohedoro, so I read that. As well as, completely changing gears, I read volume 1 of Candy Color Paradox. I did film a first impressions of this. It's not up yet. I don't know when it will be up, but when it does come up, check it out. This is one to watch if you are into yaoi. This is a series you want to keep your eye on and pick up for sure, at least so far. But yeah, really, really enjoyed this. This is a new series by Isaku Natsume. We do have something else by her in English. I haven't read it, but yeah, I'm really enjoying Candy Color Paradox. It's about a photographer as well as a journalist for a magazine. They get paired up together. They don't really get along, but it is a yaoi, so of course they end up together. But yeah, really good one. So that's all I read for week 2 outside of Bizarre Individuals 24-hour readathon, which I read 16 volumes. So 16, 17, 18. Technically, week 2, I read 19 volumes of manga. But now going on to week 3 of April, I started off with Call Me Princess. This is by Tomoko Taniguchi. This is an old CPM manga. I guess I don't own anything else by that publisher, but I know that they are no longer around, and they didn't, as far as my research shows, did not really actually publish that much manga to begin with. But yeah, I found this used and bought it. It's basically about this girl who she's not in love with her brother-in-law, but she is in love with the way that her brother-in-law treats her sister. So she wants to find a man or a boy, I guess, who will treat her like a princess in the way that her brother-in-law treats her older sister. So yeah, it's basically her brother-in-law's younger brother moves in with them, and of course, you know, he's a troublemaker or whatever, but it's a bit of a love triangle that happens There's a childhood friend involved, of course, but it wasn't fantastic, but it wasn't as terrible as the reviews of it were online. I'm just trying to find some art for you. The art, I like it. It's really an old style shojo that I find really endearing. So it was good. It's a one shot. I only spent like $1 on it. So yeah, I really did enjoy it for what it is. And then next up, I read volume 2 of Gabriel Dropout. This is by Ukami. I love Gabriel Dropout. I think it's hilarious. I loved the anime. I will say the anime is definitely a better way to consume this story because with the voice acting and the timing, the comedic timing and everything is just better in the anime. But the manga is still really good. And also some of the jokes are puns and things, which if you know some Japanese, when you watch the anime, you can understand the puns better than the translation into English of the puns and things that are in the manga. Because a few of the jokes that I laughed really hard at in the anime, the translation of it in this, it wasn't as funny, but I knew what the original Japanese joke was and I understood that, whereas the translation just wasn't as good in the manga. But I mean, there's not really much they could have done about that. I guess they could have put footnotes of what the joke meant and left it in the original Japanese kind of language, but that would defeat the purpose of translating the book for people who don't know any Japanese. I don't know. Anyway, I enjoyed the anime better, but I am still enjoying the manga. It's a fun story about these angels and devils in training. They have to do like a homestay on Earth for a year to kind of appreciate humanity and learn more about humans so that when they go back to either heaven or hell, they are able to do their jobs better because they now have lived in human shoes, basically. And it's just hijinks and shenanigans, and it is hilarious. So enjoyed that one. Then again, I took a turn in a completely different direction and started reading Eden, It's an Endless World. This is by Hiroki Endo. This is an older Dark Horse release. This is out of print as far as I know. I think volume 1 you can still get, but as far as I know, the rest of it is out of print. And it wasn't ever finished in English. I think only like 13 volumes or 14 volumes or something were printed or translated. The rest of them are not, unfortunately, at least in physical form. I don't know if you can find this digitally. I really hope so because this is amazing. This is a post-apocalyptic series. It's kind of hard to explain, but I'm just trying to remember even what. I think it was a disease pretty much wiped out most of the human race. And then there are these kids who, for whatever reason, genetically survived. And it does a time skip. And I really don't want to spoil anything, so I don't really want to talk too much about it. But if you like post-apocalyptic series and really amazing art, I'll show you some of the art here. Amazing fight scenes. It is also really graphic, but like here's a page with a lot of detail. The art is fantastic. The world just looks so desolate. It's so well done. I really enjoyed every second of reading this. There's another. So I'm really upset that I only own 3 volumes of it because I would love to read more of this. Really enjoyed it. And then the funny thing is, accidentally, I read volume 3 of Eden, It's an Endless World before reading volume 2. So I started this one, I was like, oh, that's kind of confusing. I guess they did another time skip. Read this whole volume and then picked up the next one and realized that I had read them out of order. And then I read volume 2. Everything in this volume then made sense, but just a stupid mistake on my part. I had put them on my shelf in the wrong order, and so when I grabbed them, I had read them in the wrong order. But here's volume 2, and again, still really loved it. It is extremely violent. There's a lot of fighting. really, really gory, but again, the art, the world building, I'm just so intrigued to see where this story is going. It seems like there's a political group that is kind of trying to take over, but not everybody agrees with their ideals, I guess. It's kind of a mystery at this point. I don't really know. I don't think we're supposed to know all the details of what's going on. It's kind of filling in all those gaps as it goes, but really, really good. Another one I started reading is Helsing. This is volume 1, another out-of-print Dark Horse series that I only own 8 out of 10 volumes of, so unfortunately I won't be able to finish the story for a while, but this is about a vampire. This is a pretty popular series as far as I know. I had never read or watched it or anything like that, but these came into my possession recently, and I had heard enough about it or heard enough people talk about it throughout the past, decade or so, that I knew it was something that it was intriguing to me, even though I knew virtually nothing about the story. But it's basically a vampire hunting, not company, but it's a vampire hunting group, I guess, who have this vampire in their group. So he basically goes around and kills other vampires, because he's kind of attached to this family of vampire hunters somehow. I wasn't paying too much attention. I'm not really one for stories like this. It is kind of religious as well. The church is very involved in this, like the Catholic Church. It's not my cup of tea, but I am enjoying it for what it is. The art's okay. I don't love it. I do like the action scenes and the backgrounds and stuff. It's just the characters are much differently drawn than I was expecting them to be. Like this character here. Their faces just kind of bug me. But all in all, I've only read volume 1 and volume 2 of Helsing. I still have 6 more to read, so maybe it'll get better for me. It's not a bad story. I think that people will really enjoy this. It is also very, very graphic, gory and bloody as well. It's just not really something that I would normally read, but I am glad to own it at least. Next, continuing on with Dark and Disturbing, I read the first omnibus of Frank and Fran. This is volumes 1 and 2. I really enjoyed it. It is very, very graphic, really disgusting. Makes your stomach turn. It's basically about this girl, Fran. She is the product of experimentation from this doctor, and so she now performs operations on people, either if they're dying or they ask her for help. But her operations are not always, actually, they're never ideal. She doesn't just help people like a regular doctor would. She wants to experiment on people. So if someone comes to her, with an issue, she wants to solve it her way, which involves usually mutating the person and combining them with another living creature of some kind. It involves kind of dismembering people and putting them back together irregularly, and she doesn't really have any kind of conscience about the negative repercussions of those things. She just kind of sees this as an opportunity to experiment and advance scientific research. So she thinks she's helping. She's really cute, actually. I enjoy her a lot. I enjoy her little mutant creations that are surrounding her in her laboratory. I enjoyed the stories of each individual person, because a lot of the time these people aren't really necessarily good people, and so you kind of get a kick out of watching their lives be destroyed by this sweetly not innocent little surgeon who completely messes with them. But yeah, unfortunately I think this whole thing is out of print now. This is one I've wanted for a long time. I bought this first volume used, but I'll have to track down the other omnibuses because I really enjoyed this. I knew it would be right up my alley, but yeah, you can see some of the little creations. Girl with a bug body, little hand attached to the head, little fun, very disturbing stories, but really, really good. I really enjoyed this, and if you like dark, twisted stuff, I highly recommend that. Next, continuing on, I read Smashed by Junji Ito. This is his newest English release. That is another short story collection. This one has 13 stories in it. This one was okay. I enjoyed it, but I think I liked some of his other ones better. None of the stories in this one particularly stood out to me when I finished reading it, and it's not that because of the fact that I read it all in one go, because I usually do read Junji Ito's stuff in one sitting, so it wasn't that they all kind of molded together. It was just that, like, I remember reading Shiver, and from Shiver, I could tell you right now some of my favorite stories from it, whereas from Smashed, I don't remember many of the stories at all, really. I remember the story called Smashed because it's the title, but other than that, I couldn't really tell you much about what was in this one. So that's unfortunate because I do really like Junji Ito, and it wasn't that I didn't enjoy it, because I did. It just wasn't really up to par with his other short stories that I've read. But I am still a fan of Junji Ito. I will probably read this again in the future. But yeah, I just liked some of his other short story collections better than this one. Next, I read volume 3 of Gangsta. This one goes into more of the backstory of the two guys in their childhood, how they met, and continues on with kind of what their situation is. This is all I own of Gangsta at this point. I need to get more for sure, because I know I love this story. I've watched the anime, I enjoyed it. And reading the manga now, I'm remembering why I enjoyed it so much. And yeah, so I definitely need to go get more of it, but just continuing on reading Gangsta. And then I read the second and final omnibus of Devilman. This is by Go Nagai, obviously. I think I have it upside down. Yes, I do. But this is a big volume, nice hardcover. I really like Devilman. I enjoyed reading it. I will probably do a video on it. I don't know how to really gather my thoughts, especially on a series that is such a classic. I don't know if there's anything I have to say about it that probably hasn't already been said, and probably more eloquently than I could put it. But I may make a video about this one. If you're into classic manga and owning things that are really influential in the medium, then I would say buy it. And that's the reason I bought it. I really did enjoy Devilman Crybaby on Netflix. And then when I saw that this was coming out, I went, okay, well, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to try it out, and own it so that, it is really a piece of history. And it was good. I enjoyed it. It does not leave you with a good feeling. This is like the apocalypse kind of manga. The ending is really, really, everything is just so dark and twisted and really gruesome. And it does have good themes kind of discussed and explored about humanity and how we treat the planet that we live on, and if we really deserve to be here or not. Like, what are we fighting for? If humans are, if we don't learn from our mistakes and improve on them, why are we here? And why should Devilman fight for humanity if humanity isn't really worth fighting for? So yeah, really good, thought-provoking themes, really gruesome. This edition, the hardcover with all the color pages, absolutely gorgeous. And like I said, it's a piece of history that I'm really happy that I own. Next, this is a reread for me. I was really in the mood, obviously, as you can tell from the previous stuff that I just showed you, really in the mood for some dark horror manga. So I picked up again Lychee Light Club. This is by Usumaru Furuya, who did Genkaku Picasso, as well as No Longer Human, the manga adaptation, which most people know because it's super out of print and lots of people want it. But Lychee Light Club is so dark and so twisted. I don't remember if I've made a video about it or not. I know I've talked about it on YouTube before, but I don't know if it was just in a haul video or if I actually made a separate one about it. But this is basically the story of a bunch of middle school boys who, I think there's 8 or 9 of them, who have this club they call the Light Club, the Hikari Club, basically. And it's in this old abandoned warehouse, and they're building this giant robot that kind of looks like Frankenstein, and the robot's objective is to bring them a pretty girl. And it's basically just this really dark, twisted story about these boys, these pubescent boys who are just, they have no kind of sense of right or wrong. They have become twisted in this like Hitler-esque regime that the guy who is kind of running the Light Club has put on them. And yeah, it's dark, it's twisted, it's disgusting, the brutal violence, and yeah, it's just bad. But really good. I enjoyed reading this, I think, the second time more because I knew what was going to happen, so I was prepared for all of the really disgusting parts of this manga, which meant I wasn't as shocked when they happened, so I could really focus on the actual psychological aspect of this. I could focus on my interpretation of what Usumaru Furuya's point of this was, and it's really kind of a twisted look at youth and puberty and just these boys who clearly do not have very much guidance from adults because they're spending their time behaving in this way. Really, really good if you like twisted, dark stories. If you do not have a squeamish stomach, yeah, I would say this is not for the faint of heart at all, but I'm going to see if I can find some art for you that is not disgusting. Yeah. So the characters, very much Usumaru Furuya's style of character design. I really love Usumaru Furuya. I've read a few things by him, and Lychee Light Club is one of my favorites for sure. Next, technically not a manga. Actually, it's not a manga at all. This is Spy vs. Spy Missions of Madness. This is an old comic about these two spies, and it's just their shenanigans. There's no words. The reason I read this is because I had family over for Easter, and I was trying to be social while still being antisocial. They were being loud, so I couldn't read any words, and I went, this is the perfect time to read something that doesn't have any words. Very funny. I love Spy vs. Spy. I had the video game on the original Xbox, which I still have, and it was a blast. And so it was really fun to read some of these comics that were around, before I was born. And yeah, really enjoyed that. And then next, I recently got some of Yoshihiro Tatsumi's short story collections. These are by Drawn and Quarterly, the publisher. Beautiful publications. I've got it upside down again. This one is, unfortunately, they publish in the English reading direction. But yeah, this is Goodbye. I read The Pushman and Other Stories, as well as Abandon the Old Tokyo. And so these three all have a foreword in the beginning by a different, I believe they're all comic authors, comic book authors, and manga artists. but there's a different forward in each book on why this Yoshihiro Tatsumi is such an influential mangaka. And then at the end of each book, Adrian Tomine, or Tomine, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, has an interview with Yoshihiro Tatsumi in the back of each of these volumes. So it's supposed to be read Pushman and Other Stories, Abandon the Old Tokyo, and then Goodbye. I didn't know that until I read the interviews and I realized that there was a sequential order of these, because they each focus on a different year of Tatsumi's career. So these are short story collections collected in each subsequent year of his, or 3 of his years in drawing manga. So I really enjoyed these. Every single story was compelling. Every single one hit hard. They all dealt with very real topics. We had things like abortion. There were things, there was, suicide and depression and feeling isolated, feeling lonely, working a job that you feel is like dead end and you don't know what to do. The main characters are all men. It's always a man, and usually involves a woman in some capacity, whether that be a sex worker or their wife, or an affair, or some random woman on the street. But I highly, highly recommend this. Yoshihiro Tatsumi is, I guess, the creator of Gekika manga, or alternative manga, and all of these were absolutely phenomenal. I really need to get my hands on A Drifting Life, which is his autobiography in manga form, as well as, I think is it Fallen Words or something like that? There's another short story collection I don't have that I really, really want to get a hold of, but these were amazing. I sat and read all 3 of these in one sitting, and they're really well done. The publisher did a really good job. The interviews were compelling. Everything about this was compelling. I may make a separate video on Yoshihiro Tatsumi's stuff in the future, because I really, really think that more people need to read these stories. They were absolutely phenomenal. And that is everything I read for week 2 and 3 of Lohali's 30 for 30. Sorry this video was so long, but if you've read anything that I showed and you want to chat about in the comments, please do. If you have any questions about any of the stuff that I showed, absolutely ask me. If you have any more recommendations of either Gekika manga or more horror manga that you really enjoy, that you think based on what I just showed you I read, you think I would enjoy as well, I'd love to hear it. So yeah, thanks for watching. See ya.